While Daniel's sharing the stream, I'm just going to explain a little bit about what this is about. So, since we're all stuck indoors during this COVID-19 outbreak, I wanted to start a little live stream series to invite some guest artists on and have them perform, and also interview them about, their thoughts on lots of topics, mostly musical, but otherwise as well. And today I'm very excited to have Daniel Ramjattan here. How you doing, Dan?
Hey, Mike, how's it going? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. If you guys can let us know, anyone watching, let us know if the audio levels are good, because last time I was a bit louder than the guest. So please tell us if anything needs to be adjusted or if you can or can't hear anything. But Daniel, can you just start by explaining a little bit about yourself, just very briefly, your background? Don't give us your entire life story.
Okay, I'll try. So I'm a classical guitarist based out of Toronto, and I'm doing my doctorate in music, my DMA at the University of Toronto with Professor Jeffrey McFadden. And I'm basically a person who I play a lot of contemporary music. I premiere a lot of works by new composers. And yeah, that's kind of what I really like to do. I have an upcoming album that's coming up in, I'm going to be recording in fall of this year.
Oh yeah, you got a Canada Council grant for that, right?
Yeah, Ontario Arts Council grant. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Congratulations.
And yeah, it's going to be awesome. So the album is called, I was really lucky to get it in the Doug Ford era. It's like unheard of, basically.
Yeah,
I was really surprised that I got it. So I was very, very happy.
Awesome.
And the album is called Inspirations, and it's all entirely new works by Canadian composers for solo guitar.
Ooh, cool.
So there's a new work that was written for me by John Armstrong called 5 Inspirations, and that's the title track. And then there's Raphael Wynne Rothbrown's Catharsis, which I'm re-recording for this album. And then there's Patrick Rue's False Vertigo, which was not written for me, obviously, but I'm going to play it anyways because he was a great mentor of mine, and a work by Luis Ramirez called Singularity, and 2 new works by actually Naoko Tsujita, who is my partner in crime in life and in our guitar marimba duo, but she's also a fantastic composer and percussionist. And she'll be writing a work for 7-string guitar, and Stephanie Orlando will also be writing a work for 7-string guitar. So it's going to be really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's my life right now.
Super cool.
Yeah, and I'm just doing these live streams all the time.
Nice.
Trying to survive in the plague.
Awesome. Cool. Nice. I wanted to ask, actually, I know we want to have you play really quickly before we get too into it, but what's the deal with the 7-string guitar? When did you get that, and what are you doing with that?
Yeah, so Stephen Thatchick, a guitarist out of California, was playing in Toronto one time, and I saw him play, and he was playing with a singer, and I just thought it was great, and so I was talking to him, and I noticed he was left-handed, and a left-handed classical guitarist is very rare. I know of 4. And so I saw him playing, and I was really impressed, and I asked him, and he said to me, oh, are you looking for a guitar to buy? And I said, well, I'm not sure. I definitely was, but he was like, it's a 7-string. And I was like, whoa. And I've always kind of wanted to play a 7-string guitar because it's still a guitar. An 8-string guitar kind of isn't really a guitar. It's a guitar, but it's a completely different experience.
Mm-hmm.
The 7-string guitar, it took me a lot to adjust to, but basically the opportunity was, he said, I will drop it off at your house and lend it to you for a month. And then I'll come back from California to come back to Toronto and pick it up if you don't want it. Which is kind of brutal because I had no choice essentially. And he sold it to me for a very good price. It's a Kolya Panhoidsen guitar, which
nice.
is played by Zora Dukic and a lot of great players. So I really love this guitar. And so it was like finding a unicorn to find a 7-string guitar of this quality, spruce top, exactly what I wanted. I was playing a cedar for a long time. My Bruno Bottin is a cedar guitar, and I just wanted this sound, and it had everything I was wanting and more. And I feel totally everything I want can be expressed with it, basically.
Awesome. I see Tim in the chat is saying it doesn't look too messy, so Daniel, you need to step up your messiness game.
Yeah, this apartment. At least I'm living in Toronto. It's like we try to be really clean all the time. It should be.
You gotta be clean because there's too many things down.
Just throw some stuff on the ground.
Yes, throw some stuff on the. At least it says messy desk on the sign behind me.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, really quickly before you play, the gotcha question of this live stream is: how do you define classical guitar?
How do I define classical guitar?
Yeah.
Oof. That's really hard.
I know, that's why it's a gotcha question.
It's a very difficult question. Classical guitar is... I think it's a style of guitar that... I was going to say something about it not needing electro. I don't know. I have no idea what
that's
classical
okay. You can say you
guitar
don't know.
is.
That's great.
But
After
it seems to be. It seems to. I think if we can narrow it down to one thing, it seems to be an instrumental genre of music primarily that involves a guitar that has nylon strings with a wider body than a flamenco guitar, and which is typically played in a polyphonic way, or at least a homophonic way, without necessarily strumming all the time. So it's usually playing the melody and the bass. Basically, I think of like Asturias as the classical guitar piece. It's like a piece that was written by another guitarist or by another pianist and adapted for the guitar, but it has all these voices. And this is what I always show to my students when I first start. You know, it's like, oh, we have all these voices happening at the same time. It's like two guitars at the same time. It's like three guitars at the same time. That's what I feel classical guitar is. It's
right.
Like,
so playing too many notes for one guitar.
Yeah, too many notes for one guitar, all at once. And
Nice.
I think that's what separates it from electric guitar. I think when you do that in an electric guitar, it doesn't sound as good because the frequencies kind of mess up. You can play a Bach fugue on the guitar.
Yeah.
I think that's what matters to me. That's all that
So,
matters.
Speaking of Bach, you're going to play some now, right?
I am going to do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
So you want to tell us a little bit about why you play this piece, and also how are you using the 7th string with this piece?
So this piece is, first of all, it's the keyboard partita number 6. It's the toccata from that work. And this piece is really special. It's Bach at his peak. It's Bach in 1720, which is kind of when the same time he was writing the Chaconne and pieces like this. And he wrote the E minor keyboard partita BWV 830 during this time. And it's a very special toccata and fugue that kind of goes across the keyboard in a very special way. And it just uniquely fits on the guitar. And the first time I ever heard it played actually wasn't on a piano or on a harpsichord. It was Thibaut Garcia playing it. And I was just totally blown away. I was just obsessed with this video of him playing it. I was just like, oh my God, this guy's like 20. It's like, my life is over. And so I thought I was going to play this for a long time, but I picked it up and I bought the arrangement by Hubert Keppel, and I couldn't really, I couldn't really make sense of why I would play it, because on the 6-string guitar, there were so many notes that were being lost compared to the keyboard version. Once I started listening to the keyboard version, particularly David Frey's arrangement, or David Frey's interpretation and people like that, I was just, floored. I was like, oh, well, I'd never do that on guitar. So and I'm not Thibaut Garcia. So once I got the 7-string guitar, I was able to fill in all of the notes almost. So there are a few moments where it goes up an octave and I play it down an octave, but almost every single note is there except for this one A sharp at one point. But other than that, I just raise it an octave, and so I have this lower 7th string, which is a B, which is the 5th degree of E minor, and so you can play everything basically.
Nice.
And it just sounds really beautiful. And so
awesome. So let's hear some Bach.
Cool. Using my freaking guitar.
Sorry, Daniel.
Yeah.
Can you check on Zoom if you can turn off auto, like on your mic settings, if you can turn off the automatic, what is it called? There's a setting where it automatically adjusts the volume if you hear a loud noise.
Oh yeah, I don't actually. That's actually not really a problem.
Okay.
On my.
Good.
On my, because my camera is.
Okay, go ahead.
It's pretty solid.
Just ignore me.
So it's
Just go ahead and play.
It's only for voice mics.
All right, let's hear some Bach.
Cool. All right. Wow. Okay. All right. I'll start from. Okay. Where am I? Wow.
Whew.
There's a moment there.
Awesome. Nice work. Good job,
Yeah.
man. That was great.
Thanks, man. That's
Awesome.
yeah. It's a terrifying piece sometimes. That fugue is just it just keeps going. And,
No kidding.
so
Yeah.
I'm always working on it every single time I play it. It's just I started learning it this year, and it just really kicks my ass every time.
Intense, yeah.
It was better on Saturday.
Well,
but anyway,
people are loving it. This is a super casual Messy Desk concert, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
no worries. Jess says, sounding beautiful, Daniel. Tim says, cool arrangement, my dude.
Oh, I love you, Tim.
So that's good.
So I'm trying to find how I can see this chat here. Is there a way that
here with my I have it here on OBS, but I guess you can't see that.
I'm on YouTube, but I can't see it. Are people mostly on Facebook? I guess.
I think so. Yeah, I think all the comments coming through our Facebook.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that was great. That last chord before there's that one
Yeah, this chord. I know exactly what you're talking about. This thing. It's like, what a quad, bro.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's like, yeah, it's a great moment. I love that piece. It's just, honestly, what I didn't say before I played, Bach wrote something very special before the piece that I thought was, it made me cry the first time I was playing through it. It says, for music lovers, to refresh their spirits. And I just, I don't know, maybe it was where I was at the time in my mind or something, but it was, I find his music to be rapturous. You know, it's like a sort of religious exercise to play Bach for me. I'm not Christian, but I feel that, like, if I had to be in a desert island, you know, and do nothing else, and I was robbed of all the repertoire, and like my mind was erased, the only thing I could play was Bach, I would be satisfied. Like, I could just hide in a cabin and only play Bach, and my life would be fine. It would be like being a monk. But the world doesn't really want that, so it's fine. It's fine. I have to play other things.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, I know what you mean. It's kind of hard. I mean, even if you're an atheist or an agnostic, you kind of have to appreciate, I think,
His glory.
the glory or the kind of spirituality of Bach, you know?
The sublimeness of it.
Yeah. But I also wanted to mention to people to please share the stream if they're watching, so that more people can hear Daniel play. And also, I finally set up, since we're all trying to make it through this COVID time, I finally set up a donations page for this show, which is linked, I think, in the descriptions of everything. And any one-time donations you make will be, half of them will go to the artist. So if you want to support Daniel and
we're all
my
broke,
show,
man. We're all broke.
You know, I'm just letting people know. Okay. Anyhow, let's move on. Was that awkward enough, my little pitch?
No, that was important.
Okay.
I mean, we're like, it's difficult to survive during this time as artists. You know, we're all in this together. You know, and we have to. Yeah.
For sure. So I wanted to go on to.
If you just give me one moment here, I apologize. I'm just making sure that I can hear the chat. So I'm watching the Facebook, and everything is delayed. So.
Oh yeah, that's normal. Tim says, love you too, both of you beauties. Oh, so sweet. Tell me, Daniel, you've been doing some work, I know, on anxiety management, performance.
Absolutely.
All this stuff. Am I wrong in thinking that you've been doing some, like, practice of mindfulness as part of that?
Yeah, I do. I honestly, although I have to say that it has changed quite a bit since I used to do it. I mean, I still think meditation is important, and I still practice it on a regular basis, but there are other aspects of it that need to be dealt with. So what I study, a lot of what I'm studying in my doctoral thesis is the effect on music pedagogy on music performance anxiety. Mm-hmm. So I'm going through different behavioral psychology approaches to dealing with that, and one of them is using a therapy called acceptance and commitment therapy, and so it uses mindfulness as well, but it uses it to make you aware of the things that you focus on and the things that you think about on a regular basis, to see how they affect you on a regular basis. And not just in the lessons, or not just in the meditation, but in your practice as well. So when you're practicing the guitar, for example, with my students, I try to make them aware of their cognitions when they're playing. So one thing I noticed, especially for my older students, who may have become quite proficient in another skill, or who may have had a very abusive teacher and then quit and then came back to it later in life, I noticed that when they play, they will be hypercritical of themselves. And perfectionism, you might say, is, well, I mean, all the research that I've suggested, I could like give you like 5 articles off the top of my head, that describe perfectionism as the main cause of music performance anxiety, the number one predictor at least. So someone who is highly perfectionistic is likely to have high music performance anxiety. Now, that's interesting because we also don't want to throw away that perfectionism, because it's also one of the things that makes you most likely to succeed academically and in sports. So people who have perfectionistic attitudes are more likely to be high achievers in their field. So it's a double-edged sword. We have to balance that perfectionism in such a way that it allows us to maintain a high standard for ourselves, but we also need to have perfectionism not take over our lives, and not prevent us from starting projects that we want to do, or for taking risks, or for doing the kind of things that are required of artists, not just athletic musicians.
Yeah, or that don't stop us from producing or sharing a product that maybe will do a lot of good for other people and that people will enjoy.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's yeah, that's really important. So I've over the this is I find myself kicking myself as I say this, because the perfectionist is so burned into me, right? But I find myself trying to let go of that attitude, and to instead of approaching everything with the desire to eliminate mistakes, to have an eliminative agenda, to think about things in terms of what I don't have. A clean performance with no mistakes is not really enough.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's not really what anybody is looking for. Nobody except for you wants that. Even a highly perfectionistic audience member doesn't want that.
Yeah.
What they want to see is somebody who is engaging with the music in a very deep way, and who understands the music in a very deep way, and who is sharing that music with other people. And there's all kinds of different ways you can think about it. But I think that if we adopt an exploratory approach to playing, when we're anxious, we can constantly explore our mind, explore our consciousness, and actually think of it like a child. Like children, when they might be going on a rant here, but children when they're playing an instrument, or when they're out in like at the park or something, or they're talking to their parents, they'll often ask them like constant questions. They'll be like, what does that do? What does that do? What does this mean? What does this do? What does this do? What does this do? And it's really annoying, right? Like you'll probably see your students do that. They'll like hit the guitar and they go, what happens if I do this? What happens? Because their attitude is very experimental. Their attitude is very explorative. And if we can adapt that explorative mindset during a performance, then we can keep ourselves from being overly obsessed with those details in the times when we really need to be turning off our executive function. We need to stop our decision-making mind from taking over. We have to actually accept that we've made the decisions in the practice room, and basically go into the flow.
For sure, yeah. I had that with a student today, actually, who was like, as soon as I showed him, how to adjust color and stuff, because he's at quite a young age and basic level still, he was like not doing what I asked, but just trying new things the whole time, which I actually preferred. I was like, this is actually even better in some ways than you doing what I say in the lesson, because this way you're going to go into your practice time this week like trying out a whole bunch of stuff.
Absolutely.
Which I would much prefer, actually, than
totally. Yeah. So, it's always better when the students are creating their own ideas, or coming to their own conclusions. Yeah. And that's something that that's part of my doctoral thesis. Prescriptive teaching is something that makes us more perfectionistic and more anxious, and actually starts to hold us back in our music career at a certain point. Because when the perfectionism gets so high, you might have noticed the phenomenon of people who are the best musicians we know. Like some of the best musicians I've ever come across in my undergrad or my studies in music school. They've quit and gone into law or something.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, why? But you were the chosen one.
Yeah.
You were supposed to bring balance to the force, but they don't. And the reason is because the perfectionism for them is so high that it's actually less painful to just not engage with music at all than it is to experience the constant disappointment that they live with when they're playing through their repertoire. And I think that's really devastating, because if you really look down the road and if they stay with it, you know, for 10 years, 20 years, they would continue to improve with that mentality, with the kind of way they've been, but they're just not getting enough rewards from what they're doing. They make their own decisions, but I notice that that's a very common thread, and I think that that's part of that, because yeah.
Or even on a smaller scale, like for me, I notice a trend that some of the most capable musicians I know, particularly who are studying, are the ones who are putting their performances out there the least for the public, you know?
Absolutely.
And that's kind of a shame, because the public deserves to see some of the best of the best, you know? Like,
yes, some of my favorite guitarists, they don't have, they're like older, and they don't have any albums, and they don't have any kind of.
And I understand if you don't want to put out stuff that you feel is subpar, but it just seems to me that for a lot of musicians who have a very high bar for themselves, they play super well as a result, but they also have trouble sharing that. So and that is a unique thing among classical musicians. We don't really see that level of anxiety or perfectionism in other fields. I mean, but as I say that, there's no shortage of jazz musicians who have incredibly high standards for themselves. Yeah.
Who, you know, they regulate every aspect of their life, including their diet and everything, in order to be as good as they can possibly be. But you'll never go up to a jazz musician and, you know, ask them, you know, can you play something? And them say, no. Like, I haven't warmed up.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
So that's only good. Classical musicians who have that attitude. It's and the underlying value there is, it's better to not do it than to do it badly. And that's an ethic.
Badly.
Yeah, and for me, I used to be like that all the time, and
now you're live streaming on Twitch.
And now I'm live streaming on Twitch every day to improvise every single day, and I did that virtually every day. I've been doing it 14 days straight now, and it's not everything I create on Twitch during those improvisation sessions are actually amazing, not at all. But some of them are really special. And sometimes I get real moments where I'm like, wow, this feels like a composition, or there's something coming out of me that's important. And we need to remember that music is a performance art, like building a sculpture like it's like sculpting in front of everyone. You know? Like you're making this perfect statue in front of a live audience. But it's also a psychotherapeutic tool.
Yeah.
You know, one of the big revelations for me, and I'm kind of just talking to Archie, I should probably let you ask more questions.
No, this is good.
But one of the biggest revelations for me in my doctoral degree was when I took a class called Music and Childhood, because I don't know anything about children. Like, I'm the only child. Like, I have no brothers, sisters. I don't know anything about children. I'm actually afraid of children a little bit. Like, I like teaching younger students, but it's great because they're there for like an hour and then they're gone. I really enjoy that time, but like I can't like hold a baby or something. It's very scary for me. Like, what if I drop them? Anyway, that's not important. But I took this class. It was like, how does one deal with children creatures? And so I really love that class. And the first article we read made this insanely powerful statement that is really shocking. They said improvisation is a biopsychosocial ability that all humans possess. And that's a really, really strong statement. I mean, you have to have some really strong evidence to back that up. It's not a, you can't just say that and walk away and drop the mic. But I found it to be very, very convincing, and more importantly, I felt like intuitively it made sense.
Yeah.
And they did some really great studies. Actually, the prof, Bina John, that I had, actually did a study in this area called Regent Park in Toronto, which is kind of a very, very poor neighborhood in Toronto. And they have a school there, and they brought these teachers in, and they actually got these children together, and they just gave them a bunch of instruments. They just like assembled these instruments all over the place. So there was a piano, there was all these percussion instruments, all these different toy instruments and stuff like that. And they just basically told the children, like, do what you will, just go amongst yourselves and just like, play with the instruments. And so they were playing, and it's really crazy to see the look in their eyes when they're playing. So one of the projects they had to do was compose a piece, but they didn't know how to read music. So they just gave them pieces of paper and then made them write squiggles. And when they wrote the squiggles, they had to just look at them and interpret the squiggles through their musical skills, of which they had no technique and like no formal training whatsoever. So you could see this child, and he's just sitting there at the piano. He's just like basically playing atonal music. You know?
It's like Schoenberg in the Park.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and it's really, really cool.
Amazing.
Yeah, but what's really important is the focus in their eyes. You know, you can see there's flow going on. You can see they're completely ensconced in this activity in a way that you don't get to see children do unless they're playing video games.
Yeah.
Or unless they're like, you know, on their iPhone or something.
Yeah.
So it's really, really cool. So I think that's important. We should all cultivate that, and it's the perfectionism that prevents us from doing it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Nice. Now that we've gone into the deep dive of like psychoanalyzing Daniel's like attitude towards practice and perfectionism, I think it's really valuable though. I mean, I think our own worst enemies are ourselves as musicians.
Definitely.
Pretty much. Like, it's not the guy or the girl that you think you're competing with. It's not, you know, some lack of resources, even though those are both challenges for musicians. Mm-hmm. But it's yourself that's going to hold you back, I think, you know.
Absolutely.
At least that's been my experience, and yeah.
And I think that one of the things that is often holding us back is not the musician, not the guitar player, but the artist inside of you that is trying to speak, that is being fundamentally ignored. Sometimes we actually use, this is a very counterintuitive idea, but sometimes we use music to silence the artist.
Yeah.
We use practicing scales as much as we possibly can to silence the artist. Instead of using those scales, like, why are we practicing scales over and over and over if we're not improvising on those scales? Why are we practicing all these different exercises if we're not implementing them and creating our own exercises? Mm-hmm. And there's this consistent pattern that I noticed. Raphael Wainwright Brown is a great example of this. There's this consistent pattern that the people I know, Remy Boucher is another one, these people who like get to this like level of technique on their instrument that is basically peerless. Like when Ivan Rijos is like this too. When they get to that level, it's because they are improvising or writing their own pieces.
Yeah.
And you can see that improvisational ability is actually should be part of our pedagogy, but it's not. It's really bizarre.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things that aren't a part of our pedagogy, but
yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Complain about the system all day. For sure.
Me and Steve and Adam were talking about the fact that, you know, presenting music in an understandable way to an audience is not part of our pedagogy either.
Absolutely. How to speak to a human being.
Yeah, how to speak to a normal human being that's not a guitarist. So since we're here speaking among guitarists and not normal human beings, we're going to play a little game, Daniel. You ready?
Okay.
Here is the part of the show where normally we would play the repertoire guessing game, where I embarrass the guest by playing clips from guitar recordings and having them guess the piece, composer, and player, and we talk about the music. Unfortunately, YouTube and/or Naxos, the label where many of the recordings come from, automatically block my videos when I do this due to copyright claims. Even though I know that short clips of copyrighted content are allowed under fair use when they are being used for commentary and/or education. Due to this delightful roadblock from our benevolent YouTube overlords, we'll be skipping this section, but if you'd like, you can check out the full stream with the repertoire guessing game on Facebook through the link below in the description box. Now, back to our fascinating guest. Alright, let's move on. So Daniel, let's hear you play again.
Okay.
And in the meantime, to everybody, remember to smash that share and like button.
Smash it. Smash.
And consider donating to the stream and to the artist. Okay, what are you going to play, Daniel?
I'm going to play a piece by Patrick Roux called Valse Vertigo.
Okay.
And this piece is very special to me because Patrick is very special to me. This is a piece I've kept in my repertoire for a very long time. And yeah, it's vertigo is the feeling you get when you're in a high building or when you fall down, and so you feel like you're gonna fall down. So it's kind of it's always very angular. It's always the scales are going up and down. It's like taking all the way across the guitar, cool. And so technically, emotionally, spiritually, very, very vertigo.
Neato. All right, let's hear it. Nice.
You guys are nerds.
Awesome. Do you play any pieces that aren't like super hard?
No. I'm thinking about it.
You sent me the list of pieces for this stream, and I was like, is Daniel trying to like kill himself?
Well, that's what I did on Saturday, and it was okay. It was much better than this. I don't know. This is like it's very weird playing for this live stream because I feel like somebody's gonna say something. I'm afraid that half the time I'm playing, I'm thinking like, oh my god, don't look to the left. Somebody's gonna say something hilarious, and I'm just gonna break out laughing.
Tim is
like,
just gonna like
especially
make a joke.
Tim. I'm terrified of Tim making this like.
Well, Tim is on next week, so you can go on the chat and say funny things to like distract him.
Excellent. He didn't do it though, so I won't do that then. Okay. But yeah. So
I forgot to ask earlier. Can you give us a technique tip or a musical tip, like something you do when you work on music to improve how it sounds in the end?
Well. Yeah, when I'm being a good boy and I practice exactly like I should be doing, then Jeffrey McFadden actually gave me an amazing technique that I use a lot, and it's really helped me with cleanliness and things like that. A lot of things I still have problems with. But the idea is you some of you might be familiar with this. The idea is that he says. By the way, this is a hilarious quote by him. First time he taught me this, he was like, basically, in my opinion, everything that isn't this is fiddling.
This is Jeffrey McFadden.
Like, he's like, this is the only thing that actually counts as practicing. Everything else is fiddling. It's like, okay, cool.
Isn't guitar playing in general just fiddling? I thought, like...
Yeah. just fine. But it is very effective. Okay, so the idea is that let's give it a scale as an example. So let's say I'm doing. The idea is that you play the note you have to have a very clear conception of what your plucking hand fingering is. So here I'll start on I. So when I play I, I'm gonna land on M. So just do a staccato essentially, right? And
planting,
then
good old planting.
So there's always two steps to it. So you play and you plant, and then the other finger actually starts to get into the zone, like it starts to get into the area that you're supposed to play. So staccato, and the faster you can do this, basically the faster you can play, right? So Jesus Serrano ones, like his staccatos are like. They don't really exist. So yeah, you just do this, and then the next note comes up, and then you see I'm angling into the place, and then this M finger is getting in the zone. It's getting into place, so it's right below the string, right meeting the place where my flesh and my nail meet. Yeah, so it's weak. And I find that if I do this, I find that if I do this like solid. So I can identify the places where I'm going to make mistakes by the ones where I catch. Here.
Right.
And then it gives me an opportunity to see where I'm gonna go. But I don't really practice like scales very much.
Yeah.
I used to practice them all the time, and when I did, weak. Okay, so when I used to do them all the time, I would. I would do a lot of three finger scales,
Yeah.
because I really don't like. And then at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Because it takes out the. Takes out the shift.
Yeah.
For me, I find that shift is easy going up, but then going down is very difficult.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you just use one on the shift down.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I do a lot of that. I do a lot of metronome work with accents and stuff like that. So
Cool.
I do like
Nice.
offbeats a lot, stuff like that.
Awesome. Sick. So when you do the sick. So when you do the not a good time to say that amid the COVID outbreak. Um,
Sorry,
so,
not a good time to say what?
sick. I need a new.
Sick.
I need a new
Oh,
like
ill.
Ill. Yeah, totally ill, bro.
Feverish.
Feverish. So we shouldn't laugh, but I am. So when you
It is.
so when you do that planting thing, sometimes I was hearing like a full open string, but that's because you're planting on the following string, right?
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
So if I'm doing from here to here,
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
and it's really good because it helps you identify nail clicks, which are a huge
Yeah.
problem for me. It helps me edit my nail shape.
Cool. Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I'm also wondering if you can tell us what you get more inspiration from. Do you get more inspiration from music and like musicians or other things for your playing?
Definitely people. You definitely get more inspiration from people. Like watching Tim play is pretty impressive. It's pretty
Mm-hmm.
inspiring. Watching, my friends on Instagram play, actually, more
Mm-hmm.
than actually more than really famous people now. I
Yeah.
find. I don't know why. I should be listening to more guitar albums, but actually, I don't really find myself doing that too often. I used to only walk around with headphones and like I had guitar in my ears all the time, but I I'm not against that idea actually. Maybe I should do that. I just
Yeah. I think it's in some ways at some point when your technique has reached a certain level, I think listening to more music in general is maybe more helpful. Maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Um, I find it really interesting to see how other musicians think about music, like how percussionists think about music, how violinists think about music, how singers think about music. It's really interesting because they all have, um, partly as a result of like the qualities of their instrument. Like there's like a different value set that changes between instruments.
Yeah.
Like obviously the cello is gonna like emphasize legato in a way that we cannot. Like they can do legato on a level that we can't even imagine
Yeah.
because they
Because they have
can,
a bow.
yeah, they have a bow and they
Yeah.
just let it sustain and so on and so on.
Yeah.
So you can I like to conceptualize things the way they think about it.
Mm-hmm.
um but really, like, if there's one guitarist I still watch all the time and I still really pay attention to, it's Lorenzo. Like
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with Lorenzo's playing. Like he's kind of the greatest inspiration for me in terms of playing.
Yeah.
Like I find myself like wanting to emulate everything he does because
Yeah.
he's my hero, and he's such a good person. He's this really weird and uncommon combination of someone who is so technically incredible, so intelligent at the same time, so musically interesting, and also is somehow not a horrible person. Like he's actually a really good person at the same
Yeah.
time. He's maintained that ethic. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's really important. I think a lot of people lose that when they get to that level,
Yeah.
or they lose that getting to that level
Yeah.
because they have to basically be a machine to get.
Yeah.
They have
Yeah.
to sell their soul to get to this level, to get to that level, right?
Sold his soul to the devil.
He did not sell his soul. You can see
Yeah.
that.
He still has his soul. Lorenzo still has his soul. That's
Yeah,
good.
pretty much.
Nice. What's the most embarrassing thing or funny thing you've done? Could be funny,
Oh,
could
no.
be embarrassing in retrospect. Like one of those things that maybe in the moment is like, oh damn, but like later is funny. On stage or in a class, like what's something that's hilarious that's happened?
I guess. Well, if you notice, I don't know. I've used fake nails for a long, long time,
Me
but
too.
yeah, and I use fake nails on the AIMA. But if you look closely, this one is real. My thumb is real now,
Ah,
and I've done that recently because I've been having a series of just like horrible experiences with my thumbnail exploding in the middle of the like.
a
Like, what is
series.
like?
Oh yeah, actually Nathan told me that your thumbnail exploded in a performance and you still finished.
Yeah,
the concert.
exactly, and and it happened about 3 times, and I was like, no. So now I grew it, and now it's fine because my nails are super super strong. I've never needed fake nails. I just like the sound, believe it or not, and I like the flexibility that it gives you. It lets you like I do Muay Thai, so it lets me do that. You know, so it's good. I mean,
Nice.
but now that I have, but in Muay Thai I have gloves now, so it doesn't mean anything. People.
I mean, I use a fake thumb still, but I use like nail glue, which I know is not great for the nail bed, but
Yeah, I use it too. Yeah.
oh really? And it still explodes.
Yeah. It's just I don't know if it's like, well, John Armstrong wrote me a piece. It's just 5 inspirations. At the end of it is like it's an E flat, A flat, and it's just. Virtually the entire piece is me doing that. And so like the last movement, and it always just makes my nails explode. So
yeah, well, okay. There's the.
You saw me play it with that. That was the piece of my nails explode.
I heard a story that Javier Jara would always play the third Bogdanovich sonata at the end of every competition because he would break his nail on the final chord if he was in finals.
Yeah, right.
He was just like, screw it, I'm just gonna like play that chord so hard that I break my nail. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you always put it in the final round.
Yeah. So I'm tired of that happening. So I think those are really embarrassing experiences for me. I really find these technical things really stressful because they're not things I can prepare for. I can just attack myself later if I like make mistakes or whatever. I can be like, all right, I'll correct them. There's something actionable I can do about it at least, you know. Mm-hmm. But with the technical errors, I feel like, oh my god, what do I do now?
Yeah. Oh, Daniel Metazada is waving in the YouTube chat.
Oh, hi Daniel. How's it going? Daniel's a great composer.
He
Unbelievable composer.
Totally
he wrote
amazing.
An amazing duo for.
Yeah, actually, there's a video of me and Nathan playing it on YouTube.
Yeah, it's called Dance Burlesque. Unbelievable. He's also like one of these rare composers who really understands counterpoint.
Understands the actual architecture of music. Funny.
Yeah, like I remember when I went to I did my when I was in my undergrad, he was doing his master's there at University of Ottawa, but he was like, he could have been anywhere, you know, and he was just walking around all the time with the art of fugue, you know, and he would compose 6 hours
just
a day.
Some light reading, you know.
Yeah, he would just improvise the art of fugue all the time on the piano, and it was he's like, well, you know, you do it for long enough, and then you get 5 voices, and you get 6 voices. He's a great composer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I started listening to his back catalog on YouTube, and it's like, it's great. There's this piece he has for like theremin and I want to say marimba or something. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, he wrote that for Thorvald Jorgensen.
Yeah, he's in the Netherlands, but I haven't met him yet, so I need to meet up with him.
He's a crazy dude.
Yeah, so everyone check out Daniel Metazada's music. You can see him in the comments if you're on YouTube. And go to his channel. Okay, so we're going to play another game. Daniel, you ready?
The game.
So this game is a new segment in the show, so you're the first test run.
Excellent.
So this is going to be classical guitar would you rather.
Oh no.
Okay, so there's 3 questions, and you can explore them in full depth. You can ask questions because I'm setting up like situations, like hypothetical situations, right?
Okay.
So like if you want to know the parameters, you just have to ask. Okay. So number 1, would you rather sight read a concerto on stage, like the Ponce Concerto, without ever having seen it before, and in like a really important concert, like you have to sight read it?
Okay, so what are the options?
Sight read.
My ADHD just kicked in.
So this is the first option. Sight read the Ponce Concerto on stage, and you've never played it before, and it's an important concert with like the orchestra and everything.
Okay.
Or go on stage and play it perfectly from memory, but you like really noticeably shit your pants at the beginning, and it's like really, it's like audible and like everything for like the audience and the orchestra.
Definitely shit my pants on stage because at least it would be good. Like, I mean, if that happened, people would be like, "Oh, that was a great performance," but I can't believe he shit his pants. Is he okay?
Yeah.
Whereas the other one would be like, this filthy mongrel didn't prepare and just
sight reading
this piece. So I would definitely prefer shitting myself. Definitely. While playing it perfectly.
You know what the most embarrassing thing about this is? I stole that from a 2-set video, that question.
They're great.
Yeah. They asked Hillary Hahn this question. Can you imagine? Like, can you imagine? Like, that is, like, she said the same as you. It's like, be professional. But like, Nathan says, better shit your pants than shit the bed. Oh, man. But I mean, that's the thing. It's like, you know, you got to be professional. But I just couldn't believe they were asking Hillary Hahn this question. Like,
that's wild.
Yeah. two set. Okay, anyways.
Is there a third person with us?
Is there? No.
It's above your screen. I can see this darkness.
What darkness?
There's like a curtain, and there's. Can you not see like a there's like my face, and then there's yours, and then if you look on the Facebook, maybe. Can anybody else see this?
I think you. No, the curtain is in your room, man.
Oh wow! Okay. That's,
Okay.
Oh, I see. Wow, that's terrible. It's like a hard line. So
Yeah,
it's like another.
Yeah.
I'm dumb. Okay, fine.
Okay. Okay. So the second, would you rather?
Okay.
Tim says I made his mom laugh out loud. You're welcome, Tim. And Sharon. I think it's Sharon. Hi, Sharon.
Sharon.
Silas says
Sharon.
the darkness comes from within. Okay. The second would you rather is would you rather play with a chamber partner who can't lead or follow rhythmically at all, or one who is completely like dead in terms of dynamics and articulations, and like just completely boring but perfect rhythm and like free and like ability to follow?
I think the second person, because they'd be more reliable. Like I would at least be able to, like,
Execute the piece.
Yeah. Whereas the other person would be like, oh no, like, why? It's again like, rather, at least you got through the piece. Whereas in the other one, it wouldn't really.
Yeah.
The curtain is tripping me out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually, so I could tell you the story of this curtain. Basically, the idea is that I used to have a roommate named Lucas. He moved to Denmark. He's an amazing violist. Lucas Beckford. And this place is like, was too expensive for us. So he was my roommate there. And he lives on the other side of that curtain, like literally. And so I didn't have a window for a long time.
Nice.
But now we still use that curtain, and that's like my studio. That's like where I usually do music things. But now I wanted her to be able to practice marimba there. So
cool. Oh yeah, there's like a glass door, right?
Yeah, exactly. So,
okay. Third, would you rather? Would you rather? Okay, so I'm gonna set the stage. You start your school year in September. You like pick a really ambitious program. You like learn it all. Tim says, "What chamber partner? You know we're guitar players, right?" Well, some of us play with real musicians, Tim.
I play with musicians.
Yeah, so I play with musicians, not guitarists.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, so it's like, September you start your program, you learn it all before December. So you've like learned all your notes. And then by like February or March, you have like a really good handle on all of your articulations, your dynamics, your fingerings, everything. Your teachers like really helped you. You've got like a real good handle on this program. It's like February and you start like running it, for your exam in like June.
Yeah.
If only I was there now in February, but anyways, in March. But that's the stage, okay? Would you rather change half your exam program in the middle of March for like a May exam? Or would you rather have to change all of your articulations, fingerings, and dynamics? Like completely, like a totally different approach. And you're convinced that this approach is better, but you have to change every single thing.
Oh, I definitely changed the articulations. Would I? No. I don't know. I've definitely done weird stuff like that before, like the first one. Like I think I've definitely done that before.
Like
I really like to learn. Program. I like to learn pieces fast. Actually, I think I play pieces better when I've just learned them than when I've played them for a really long time. Because when I play them for a really long time, I kind of get sloppy sometimes, and I don't practice it as much as I should. Whereas in the beginning, it's like I'm thinking about everything with like a lot more depth.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I think maybe the first one actually.
Just change the pieces.
Yeah, just change the pieces. If the articulations and dynamics were just like really
ingrained, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like
yeah.
Changing all that would be just like hell, especially if it's like Bach,
Yeah, for sure. Because then you confuse yourself, and like Tim is saying, then you confuse yourself, and you sort of like you're like playing two programs at the same time. It's frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we're ready for another performance. What are you gonna play now?
All right, I'm gonna play the bed variations. I don't know why I do this to myself. I don't know why.
I'm enjoying it. I mean, I like hearing all the, one little mistake here and there is not bothering me. So.
All right. The
and
difference is like I can't just be like in the zone. It's like oh, we're gonna talk for so long that it's like,
yeah,
it's
okay,
good,
but
it's good.
everybody
like
knows
it.
this piece. So can you show us what? Are there any spots where you use the 7th string?
Yeah.
Can you show us where they are?
Well, I'll just play the piece and it'll be like a surprise.
Okay. But I'm just really curious to hear this with 7th string. That's the thing.
It just it's E minor, so you can have some. I just kind of throw them in, you know.
Yeah. The bass note's cool. Let's hear it.
There it is.
Woo! That was amazing.
Yeah, I definitely cheat with those slurs.
Nice.
I definitely.
Yeah. I'm also wondering, like, when you were doing all the big chords, I was wondering, like, does a seventh string ever create problems with, like, playing chords where you just want to hit all the strings and you can't?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the biggest challenge of the whole thing, I think.
Yeah.
Like,
there's this movement of Nathan's sonata that you probably just couldn't play.
Well, like what I do. I didn't do this on Saturday, but I think I'll do this today. Like when I play Catharsis, it's really one of those pieces like that, right? Where you have to, you have to just get the whole thing. So what I do is I just tune the lower string to E.
Okay.
Just double E,
Oh, smart, yeah. Oh, Nathan says I'll rearrange it. Danielle, please play it.
Definitely. That piece is awesome.
Nathan,
that piece is absolutely awesome. That is like one of my projects, honestly.
Nathan,
I'm very serious, Nathan. That is a really cool piece.
I have to make the recording before it's given
Exactly. I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting for you specifically. So hurry up. Okay.
That's me. I have to be faster, yeah. Well, in my defense, Nathan is still making the final draft. I gave him all my edit suggestions.
Mhm.
So the ball is, it's in both our courts, really.
Put an earplug under the seventh string. An earplug? What's what's that? Like how? Like I guess like here. Is that what you mean, Silas?
Yeah, or like you can cut like a piece of rubber or something to put underneath it.
Yeah, I think you could maybe have a mute. Maybe.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
should get a mute.
Yeah, I think so.
Silas, you're a genius, assistant.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's all the creative solutions there.
All right, let's move on. That was awesome, man. That was great. I love
Thanks.
hearing that piece.
It's a great piece.
So, I'm curious what you think about the future of classical guitar, if there is any.
Oh boy. Well, it's definitely not a boys' club.
Yeah.
The future of guitar is not a boys' club. Future of guitar is not. I know what it's not. It's not um, a bunch of guys who watch just guitarists. A bunch of guitarists watching just guitarists.
On
That's
a
not
live
the
stream?
future of guitar. Yeah. I think I mean like this is awesome. I love it. Everybody is here, and it's great that we all know the inside jokes and stuff. But it's great that we like interact with other composers, other performers,
Mm-hmm.
other musicians, and people in the general public who aren't really engaged with classical guitar. I mean, all of us really truly have a rock background. All of us have like. There's no one who plays classical guitar just classical guitar. I mean, there are a few, I guess, but very rarely. And I think that I was watching a really interesting interview with Mike Chapdelaine recently, and he, as you probably know, he's a first GFA winner, but he also won an international string fingerstyle guitar competition, so Zen slappy slap, the tapping and the acoustic guitar, and so he's a really great guitarist and an amazing musician in so many ways. So I was watching his interview. It's really interesting to see what he thought, and he said. He was asked this kind of question. He was like, "Well, whatever you do, man, like just don't sell your Gibson, don't sell your Les Paul." That's what he said, and I think that that's really really important. Like for us to be open minded and to pursue as many challenges as possible to push it forward. If we're not interested in playing contemporary music, that's fine. Maybe you don't like the aesthetic of that. Although I think that's the way I want to go, like work with other composers and stuff like that. But I think at the very least, arrange music from other composers or find music that's hidden, find music that isn't performed often, find pieces that aren't performed often by composers that are well known, things like that. I think that playing the same repertoire, is kind of not really going to be the future for us. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think it can be the future for certain players in the short term, but it's not.
Yeah.
The problem is like I think there's a lot of guitarists, especially students, who are or young professionals who think that that's what they have to do is just play the same rep better, right?
Yeah.
And win competitions and stuff, which is can be useful. But the thing is that the number of people who that's a successful model for is so minuscule. Like who are going to be successful out of that, right? And
yeah.
also, what does that contribute? Like so, it's not that it can't be success. You can't be successful doing that. It's just that like, is that a sustainable model, especially for the instrument?
Well, Steve is here, and I think that Steve is a nice. Hi, Steve. Steve is somebody I respect a bunch. I'm going to say nice things about you, Steve. I hope you don't get. I'm singling you out, but Steve is a massive inspiration for me because he's one of these people who is able to win competitions at a really high level and play new music at the same time.
Yeah.
He's somebody who plays only music that he wants to play, and he doesn't compromise his values for the competition, and he still wins the competition because of his insane musicality and skill. And I think that for me, like, I don't win competitions often, ever. So, but I think that, like, the times where, like, I've gotten to the finals or things like that, or, like, I've been very happy because I've done it doing pieces that I really, really enjoy, that I really think should be played. And often I'm attacked for that. Like, I played the Chromatic Fantasy and Fugue by J.S. Bach for the finals of the Montreal Guitar Competition, and I felt I played it like I don't feel I made any mistakes. I actually really worked on it a lot, and it was very very clean, and it was really like people really didn't like that. It made them very upset.
Like guitarists or jury members or both?
The jury became. I'm one of the jury members. Like talked to me after, and he was like, "Oh, you shouldn't be playing this on the guitar. This doesn't belong on guitar. It sounds like flamenco Bach. But I'm playing Campanella. What are you talking about?" Like,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh, you need to play everything slower if you're gonna play this piece." But I was like, I'm already playing. It's like you play it too fast. But I was like, I already play the piece at 3/4 of what any pianist plays it at. So I just
Yeah.
very
Well,
bizarre.
I mean,
Yeah.
jury. Carlo.
Yeah. So
My teacher Carlo says not to listen to jury members. So.
yeah, I mean, and there are some, like, I'm very careful about who I listen to, so I listen to people who I really respect, and I listen to people whose playing I want to emulate,
Mm.
so, but I don't really listen. We have to know what our values are. We need to know what we want from the guitar, from what music, from art, right? Art is more important. Art is at the top, then music, then guitar.
Yeah.
It's in that order.
Well, and also I struggle with the idea that what other guitarists think is a good metric.
Yeah.
For like, if you're doing what you should be doing to move not only your own playing, your own production forward, like your own content forwards, but just like or not content, but like your own output, forwards.
Mm-hmm.
But also the art form in general, like it doesn't.
Yeah, and I think that we're one thing that's really sad in the classical music tradition in general is that the idea of improvising and performing our own works is kind of being lost.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing guitarists do this more and more now, but I think that's a really good movement for people to continue to make their own music, because we all have our own voice, and I think that we're stifling ourselves by just using our instrument to emulate what other people have created, and it's really, really difficult.
It's also not as if, not to negate your point, but it's not as if like that's the only path to do something unique and contribute, right? Like,
not at all.
You mentioned arranging. I mean, like, yeah, I'm studying with Carlo, but Carlo's website where he's putting out all these Baroque transcriptions, it's like, it's crazy how much he's contributing and how much that will, but it's not playing.
I've listened to his Telemann album. It's great.
Yeah, but you compare that to, someone playing all contemporary music. It's just a different path to do something that's contributing, basically. But I don't see how playing the same rep or trying to play it better is really contributing very much.
And it's also just basic math. Like, if you want more people to come to your concerts, like, if more people are performing or involved in the performance, then more people will tell people about the performance and more people will go.
Yeah.
So it's like it's actually like very, very logical to just have more people involved in the process. And when we play solo guitar, I think there's a personality that goes with that, right? Like, there's like a sort of attitude of like, I want to do it all myself. Like, I don't want a band. Like, I want to be me. I just want to play guitar like all by myself, have no one else, and I can just like turn off the world outside me and just live and be like a Buddha all alone by myself. No.
Yeah.
But that's not really sustainable. Yeah. It's like it's not like live in our cave. We need to.
Yeah. But eventually you might become enlightened,
Yeah. Well, I think there are some people like that. Like, sometimes I talk to people like Remy Boucher or Lorenzo. I mean, and they're people who engage with the world but have gotten to a spiritual depth because of their playing. And it's really, I think that should be the goal. Like, for me, it's like being a monk, playing guitar. So that's
interesting.
That's my opinion.
What non-musical art form or discipline do you think guitarists could learn from the most?
Interestingly enough, dance.
Okay.
I think people don't really know our martial arts as well.
Yeah.
Dance, martial arts has informed my playing so much more than anything else has, I think. Mm-hmm. So, since I started doing martial arts, I have, which I did when I was young, like very, very short, but I've taken classes in Muay Thai and all these things, and I found that they've really, Tai Chi as well as a martial art, Tai Chi Chuan, and I found like it really gives me a body awareness that I didn't have before, particularly, especially I'm a footstool person, so like particularly this part of the body, like this hip, for example, is always being engaged by the footstool, but this that makes this hip weak, so it becomes progressively weaker and weaker and weaker, and then it just kind of deteriorates, and your body falls apart and caves in on itself. you see all these guitars with this muffin top, like it's the guitar muffin top.
Yeah.
It's like that is part of that. So I think being fit is really important. Being able to move our body is really important. Being able to have the discipline to be able to work under intense strain, you know?
Yeah.
When I see people who are doing a professional fight or something like that, the amount of work they put into what they're doing is actually way more intense than what people do for a guitar competition sometimes.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like, and sometimes when I do the exercises from those and I perform, I don't have to warm up. Like, and I'm able to play much better when I do those exercises. I don't always do them, but when I do like a kata, for example, from karate, like and I perform, I find those are the best days, or the days I do like the beginning of the form in Tai Chi.
Yeah.
Like I find it really helps me a lot to center myself. Like it's a kind of informed mindfulness. It's an embodied mindfulness is the word I'm looking for. Embodied.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do the lightning round. You ready?
Okay. Cool.
So you have to say like within a couple seconds one of the other. Okay.
Okay.
And if you really don't want to say, you can say pass.
Okay.
Okay. Number 1, cats or dogs?
Cats.
Okay. Oh, thank God. Thank you for saying that. Restoration of the composer's intention or personal interpretation?
Personal interpretation.
Okay. Bream or Segovia?
Bream, obviously.
Honey or agave?
Sorry? Honey or agave? I don't even know what agave is. So I guess honey.
Okay. Butter or margarine?
Margarine. Okay. I prefer oil. Olive oil, personally.
Are you vegan?
No, but I was for a year.
Okay.
I'm vegetarian.
Vegetarian, okay. Yeah. Liszt or Chopin?
Liszt.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Free stroke or rest stroke?
I use free. In reality, I would be a hypocrite to say rest stroke. I like the sound more, but I use free stroke way more. Okay. I almost never use rest stroke, sadly.
Breakfast or dinner?
Dinner.
Okay. Bogdanovich or Brouwer?
Brouwer. No. I like them both. That's like a clear tie for me, actually.
Okay. Mammals or reptiles?
Reptiles.
Vanilla or chocolate?
Chocolate.
Solo or chamber?
On the guitar, solo.
Okay. Well, now you're a hypocrite after your whole rant.
I know. It's just not enough yet. It's gonna get better.
Okay. Concert or masterclass?
Concert.
Okay. Contemporary or classical romantic repertoire?
Contemporary.
Okay. Outer space or deep sea?
Outer space.
Yeah, of course. Campanella or regular scales?
Regular scales.
Oh, really? Sweet or salty?
No slurs. Salty.
Okay. Tremolo or scales?
Tremolo.
Okay. Horowitz or Rubinstein?
Rubinstein.
Thibaut Garcia or Andrea Di Vitis?
Thibaut. Thibaut all the way.
Okay.
It's my boy.
Marcindila or Zoran Dukic?
Oh, Zoran Dukic? Zoran Dukic.
Okay. Interesting. I feel like we learned something about each other. Or I learned something about you, at least.
Yeah, I like, basically my favorite performers are people who make me feel afraid, but then we survive. You know, when you go on a roller coaster, it's like your entire body is telling you this is going to kill you and you're about to die, but then you survive. That's how I feel a great performance should feel.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Cool.
I don't want to feel safe, but I want to survive.
Is that how you feel about this pandemic situation?
Yeah, I've prepared for this my whole life. I've actually never been functioning better as a human being because my whole life has been in preparation for this, and my quality of life is still way better than it's ever been. I grew up so poor, had nothing. Like, I you know, just like my mom's schizophrenic. Life has been hard. But like now, my life is amazing. I just sit in my room, make videos all day. Like, what else could I possibly want?
And play
guitar like I'm an undergrad now. Yeah, it's great. It's like all I wanted.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm glad your quality of life is so good at the moment.
No, it's just, I'm not bragging. I'm just saying it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah, no, because you're like, you're able to,
pandemic.
yeah, you're able to play guitar and like, yeah, do stuff.
Yeah,
I know what you mean, for for sure.
I know it's not easy for everyone though. I know.
No, for sure. I mean, but we're making the best of it that we can. I mean, that's why this live stream is happening. So
Exactly.
it's good. And we get to talk, which normally we
Yeah,
probably
totally.
wouldn't be
It's great.
talking like this.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. We can talk for like 2 hours straight.
Exactly. Okay, so you're gonna play your last piece, but first, everyone remember to smash that like button
Smash that like button.
and hit share and consider donating to support Daniel and the stream. Okay, so what are you gonna play at the end here? I know, but can you tell our listeners?
I was gonna play Catharsis, but I think I'll play the first 2 movements of it. Okay.
Okay, that's
because
fine. Yeah.
It's already like I don't know if we have enough time for the whole 15 minutes.
That's
so I'll play,
fair. No, if you
I'll
gotta
play
run.
Ire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll play Ire and Confusion from.
Okay. We'll end on Confusion. I think that's where the world is at right now.
Yeah, that's where we are. Anyways.
We're all a little bit confused. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So.
I talk too much. My ADHD gets in the way.
No, it's good. This is good. And so this is by Raphael Weinroth Brown, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Awesome metal cellist. He's the cellist from Leprous. But he's an amazing guy, amazing guitarist, amazing guitarist actually, amazing flamenco guitarist, amazing keyboardist, drummer.
Does all the things.
But his cello ability is basically peerless.
Cool.
This piece is called Catharsis.
Right. I'm gonna mute myself.
Cool.
Shreddy. Nice.
Pretty crazy piece.
Yeah, that was great, man. Awesome.
Yeah. Well.
It's
Yeah,
come a
thank
long
you.
way since I heard it in Hamilton all those years ago.
Oh my god, I know, right? It's like you can play guitar now.
Yeah, yeah.
No, Jeff has really improved my technique. I think Patrick gave me much more musical intelligence during my masters, and Bruce did too. But I feel that, but Jeff really helped me with my technique a lot. He really helped me feel more confident about being able to play passages cleaner. I still need to work on it forever for the rest of my life, but it's still not perfect. But he really helped me find ways to do that and to understand my own technique. I wasn't even using a mid-range of motion.
I mean, I think you communicate the piece, so it doesn't need to be perfect. I mean, you communicate the music super well, so.
Yeah, I just it's like being able to do a speech without stuttering. That's how I see it.
Right. Yeah.
If I make a few mistakes, it's okay. If I see Obama is giving a speech and he's talking like this, it's okay. But I might be a little better if he continued with the conversation a little bit faster.
What are your top 3 guitarist impressions that you can do?
Lorenzo Micheli, Ravshan Mavakuliev, and they're who I follow a lot, honestly. And I guess Thibaut. Yeah, Thibaut Garcia. They're my favorite guitarists right now.
Yeah.
Judah Kyle.
You can do impressions of all of them, is what you're saying?
I can't do it.
I asked what your top 3 guitar impressions were.
Oh, my guitar impressions.
Yeah.
Oh, impressions.
Guitarist impressions.
Guitarists. Oh.
Guitarist impressions.
Well, I can definitely do Lorenzo Micheli. When he is talking, he gets very deep inside his mind, so he can find the flow when he is talking.
You and Bill should do a competition.
And then I guess Bruce Holtzman is my probably best one.
Yeah.
What you need to do right now? You need to take up the slurs and play them faster. That's just my opinion, but I'm right.
This brings me back to my days in Domaine Forget.
That's Bruce.
I just remember coming into the classroom in Domaine Forget with like some other totally random piece to play, and then he made me play Villa Bush Etudes.
Yeah, he's hilarious. He was like, "You learn pieces fast." I was like, "Yeah, I guess so. I don't know." He's like, "Can you play me Recuerdos to Alhambra tomorrow?" I was like, "Okay, I'll learn it."
In a day, yeah.
In a day, yeah. I was like, "Okay."
I mean, that's doable. That piece.
It was doable. It was, yeah.
Nice.
But it was fun.
Awesome.
He's the greatest teacher ever. Really.
Yeah.
Him and Patrick.
He was great. I learned a lot, even in like 4 lessons from him in Domain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And of course, Patrick Roux, when he talk to you, he tell you you're a great exigent musician. You are working very hard, very implicated. That's how he talk. It's very much like this. So that's my Patrick Roux impression. So
you're great. You should you should really compete with Bill Canageiser on impressions. Cool.
It's fun. Okay.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for having me, man.
Thank you, Daniel. It's been great.
Yeah, it's great. I'm looking forward to the next ones, and I'll definitely watch it.
Yeah,
definitely.
Please do.
Yeah.
It'll be great. And you have a live stream going?
Yeah, I'm doing one at 5:00 to 7:00 every single day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm doing 5 to 7, and then on Thursdays I do 12 to 5, and then Saturdays I do 7:30, and Sundays I do 7 to 9.
And the link is in the description. As
yes.
As is the link to support the Messy Desk concert.
It's twitch.tv/concerts for the end of time, and I do a live improv for 2 hours, and I use all kinds of pedals and stuff like that, and do loops and stuff like that, and I post some of them on Instagram, the ones I like. But yeah, it's really fun.
Awesome. Great.
Awesome.
Well, hopefully everyone will follow you there, and we'll talk to you the next time we're allowed to travel, I guess.
All right. Yeah, next time we're allowed to travel. Okay.
Okay.